Hi guys, what's up? Today we're doing kind of a more, I want to say this is like a moderate level kind of repair. So if your wheel bearings are bad, some things you can do to tell if your wheel bearings are bad whenever you're driving at like low speeds, kind of around a parking lot, you're going to hear this constant. It's like metal against metal, but like it's like a constant sound. It's not like a popping or like an intermediate kind of thing. It's a constant shh like that. Also, you can tell when I jack this wheel up and I rack it side to side, that also means the wheel bearings are bad. But I've got that classic, you guys can look it up. I'll link a video of the noise in the description, so that you can kind of cross check with what you got to see if that's your problem. But it's a pretty obvious sound. But a few things you're gonna definitely need. You're gonna need some jack stands. You're gonna need a jack. You're gonna need a strap, PV blaster, some PV blaster. So it looks like some WD-40, a torque wrench, full range of. I mean, I get a bunch of like a whole socket set, but you're gonna need sockets 7/8, 13/16. You're gonna need 1/2 inch. Those are the basics, some ratchets to go with it. Torque wrench that can do inch pounds. You need that. Your basic adjustable wrench, a hammer, a torque wrench that can do up to, I want to say, about 180 foot-pounds. And then highly recommend a chair, obviously, and a wheel block for the backside, even though you can put the parking brake down, but some people's parking brakes aren't as good as others. Mine's really good, but I still block the back because I'm lifting up the front. I know I've got 2 jack stands out here. One's the main stand for where I'll be working. I keep the jack underneath it still kind of up, and then I also put another jack stand on there just for safety. But yeah, the strap's really important. You need something to hang up that brake caliper. Other than that, that's about it as far as the essential. Well, obviously you need a new wheel bearing. You can find that on Rock Auto. That's where I get all my parts and stuff because it's super cheap. DeWalt's not completely necessary. It just kind of makes the job go a little bit faster in some spots. To be honest, it's probably really not, like, doesn't really improve speed that much, but yeah. So let's get started. One thing you guys always want to do before you get too excited, you always want to break the lug nuts loose. So you guys will see me do most of all this work with this this torque wrench, and that's not required. You guys can have your own personal favorite lug wrenches or whatever you want to use. I just like using that because it gives me a lot of leverage as far as how long the handle is, and it's a very tight wrench, so it gives me all the. It's very solid. So some you guys will find some lug wrenches aren't like super solid. That one's very solid. And you see me just this front axle. This front axle is a very solid place. Well, it's really not the. This is not technically the. It really doesn't have a solid axle that goes all the way through, so. It's really more of like the front frame then, technically. So the frame of the front, whatever. It's got your bunch of stuff going here, solid metal, so it's pretty good. And then once I jack it up, I'll put my jack probably under here, under some of this metal somewhere, you know, make sure it's stable also before you set it down, but yeah. Here, just make sure that that jack's set in a good spot before you start cranking it up, which I did do. I just gotta these were 13/16, and they're not. They're actually 7/8. These lug nuts with the chrome on them are 7/8. And as you guys can see, I've stripped the chrome off of a few of my lug nuts. The whole back wheel on this side, I think, has all of the chrome off it. These are 21 millimeter. So if you take the chrome off your lug nuts on your Dodge Dakota, you'll find a lug nut that's 21 millimeters underneath it. So I just did it because I got irritated with the chrome. Some of the chrome was starting to round off and whatnot. So if your chrome ever starts to round off on your vehicle and you have a Dodge Dakota, because I don't know why, but they put the chrome on them and you're having trouble with that, you can literally just poke a hole through the middle of the lug nut and peel that chrome off of it. And underneath is a whole ass lug nut with no chrome on it. Okay, so we got the wheel off. That's pretty easy, right? Most of you, I really hope everybody knows how to do that. You never know when you might need to change a tire, as far as safety stuff goes. So now we're going to delve into, this is really kind of beginner level mechanics. This part is. Let's see. So, the swivel. The retaining pins that hold the brake caliper on are 1/2 inch. Before you do that, I'm just getting everything ready here. Have your strap ready. Have your straps ready, whatever. You're gonna need a flathead. This is a very critical part of this project. I'm trying to not get my sweat on you guys. So you need a flathead. I've done this in my last video, but I'll do it again in case you guys haven't. Somebody new hasn't seen the last one. So there's this metal, there's a boot right there, and there's another. My hat. My hat's got a freaking light. I don't know where I put my sticking hat though. Get my head in here. It's not really illuminating it up too much, just because it's alright. Here you can see it pretty well. I can hold my. This is a struggle. So there's like this metal surface right here. So this is where you're gonna wanna, actually no. So your boot, and then that's the metal surface right there, where my flathead's on, where it's kind of scratching it. And you're gonna wanna pry that off with pressure, just some steady, very steady pressure, and you'll see it's starting to go back in there with time. It takes time to do this, but you kind of pry it, and it'll start recessing back into its place. So it's gonna take a second. Turn my when it starts to wiggle like that, you guys can take your 1/2-inch socket. However, you can put it on any socket tool, whatever, as long as it's in reverse. And release that one. Alright, I'm going to show you guys spots where these are at. Okay. I think that top one's still in there. Takes a second to get it off anyway, so there's a 1/2-inch right there. In that spot, you see brake line, brake caliper. There's also a 1/2-inch one down there. Very small, not very much pressure. So when you guys put those back in, we'll go over that. When you guys put these back in, you'll probably need an adjustable wrench to kind of hold this, because otherwise it'll just spin in place. You'll need to hold the part right here. This is like a retaining pin, and it's got like a spot where you can put an open-ended wrench on it, and you just want to kind of hold that steady whenever you screw these back in. And when you bring these back in, do not use an impact to put them back in. Use just a hand tool like this and just tighten them up until it starts to get tight, and then stop, and then get your torque wrench out that does inch-pounds. It's very important that you only tighten these down to 264 inch-pounds. Otherwise you'll strip them, and then whole problems start happening, and yeah, it's expensive at that point, so you don't want to do that. Whole ass problems. So that'll come off depending on how well released this caliper is. You may need to pry it again, since this time the bolts are off. It'll probably be a little bit easier. You should get to a point where you can just slide it right off. You don't want to force it off, because when you force it off, you're gonna have to force it to get it back on, which is never fun. It's time consuming and irritating, and this job is already irritating enough. And you'll be able to hear it kind of as you pry on it and push it back. Like I said, that bottom part, see, I can get my flathead in there, so it'll just take a little bit of coercing, but it should come off without too much of an issue. Maybe the top one's a little bit more on there than I thought. Oh. Take a second, but it will come off. When you do this, watch your brake line. Make sure you don't twist it up or anything. Just turn it Set it up here for now. Very important you keep track of those 1/2" bolts. Put everything in one place underneath your work area. Everything in one place. At this point, you guys can inspect your brake pads. See how good a shape. I just took one of the fucking clips off this one, but by accident. If that happens, just put it back on the way it came off. Inspect your brake pads. These look pretty good. There's a little chip from me, but that's not going to cause any issues. There goes a piece again. Just put it back on the way it came off. They do just rest there, so understand that. It's not unusual for those little ends to pop off. All right, then you got your bracket. So this is where it gets a little bit more bit of a pain in the ass. So now this bracket is held on with 2 13/16 nuts, and they're going to be pretty tight. Everything from here on is going to be really tight, and I'll show you guys where that goes. So these 2 nuts right here, there, and then also up here are your, that one feels 7/8. Wow, I'm holding the 7/8. Okay, 13/16. 13/16, nice and tight, nice and snug, those 2 right there. All right, before we get carried away, your flathead also has another use. You're gonna stick it in your rotor like that with your bracket on. Make sure to not take your bracket off. I'm telling you, if you get out of sequence with this stuff, it's so irritating. Like, it is so irritating. All right, stick your flathead there because you have to go back and do stuff all over again. Axle nut here on your axle. This is definitely something you guys gotta have. I don't know if I may have forgot to do it in the intro. 35mm deep well axle nut. You can get it at AutoZone. You gotta have it. All right, you put it on the axle nut. Axle nut is held on with 185 foot-pounds. Everything from here on is going to be a pain in the butt to get off. Okay, that goes up there. Make sure you're turning it to the left. I think my wrench was still on like 150. So it did pop. So this is going to take a minute, so we'll fast forward through it. All your parts in one place, down below. Everything in one place. You don't want to lose any of this stuff. You really don't want to lose any of this stuff. All right. Axle nuts off. So now we're going to get underneath on the side. Move some of this stuff out of the way. Underneath on the side. Make sure we've got the 13/16. Should be 13/16. Plug that directly onto there. Make sure we're going to the left. Going to the left. All right, we're gonna get down here. The only reason these things are challenging is because of the situation. We are doing this from the ground, so leverage and how I can use my power is kind of tricky. These two are always like not too bad as far as getting them off, but we're gonna delve into the the bolts that hold on the wheel bearing itself, and you guys will find out that those are a real pain. So you might be able to see all right from kind of like right there. See right there. So these got to come off. You can take your flathead out now. Turn that. Make sure you turn it to the left. You really don't want to be doing this and accidentally be turning to the right. Make your life a pain in the butt. All right, so this is where the DeWalt, you know, kind of like makes things go a little bit faster after you've broken loose. The DeWalt is not strong enough to break these loose, all right? Unless you guys have a more beefier impact or an air tool. I don't like using air tools on cars, but that's a personal opinion. If it gets kind of like that, just find your normal socket wrench, just so you don't cross thread anything. I know when I put it back on, I didn't over torque it, but you don't ever want to take the chance of messing it up, because it's more of a pain than it's worth. I didn't even know these had a fucking. These are supposed to have little washers on them. No, they do. It's a good thing I never lost any of those. Alright, take your bracket, put your bracket down underneath your workspace. Take your rotor. The rotor should come off now, right? Yes, rotor should come off now. I replaced these rotors recently. Take your rotor, put your rotor out of the way. Alright, this is where it gets really kind of challenging. So, after you get your rotor off, things are no longer just kind of intermediate to beginner level. This is definitely intermediate to like moderate level mechanics. Just because this is a pain in the ass. So, probably need a swivel there. So here you're, I don't know if you guys can be able to see this or not. I don't even know if I have my hat out anywhere. Just slide back to the top of the truck. Let's see if you guys can even see this. Alright, so there is a bolt. There's a bolt right here. As you can see, there's also one on the other side, and there's also one on the top, right up here. So these three are held down with the strength of 3 giants. They are in there. All right, you guys are gonna need to PV blast these things from back here and up front, let them sit, all that good stuff, because they are a pain in the butt to get off. And I'm talking, they're, it's like that car work that make you want to like hit your head up against stuff. It is such a pain in the butt. Now if you get lucky, then hey, you get lucky. And that's not that bad. Maybe the person that worked on your car last time didn't wrench them down too tight. Good for you. You're gonna want to shoot those up with a PV blaster. The bolts for these come out the front side too. Open there. Let it sit for a bit. Get rid of the shade here. So my theory is like the big problem with this is really not, it's not always the I'm trying to see, okay. It's not always the pressure, it's really like the leverage you can get down here, because the leverage down here as far as like your ability to get in a good spot to be able to turn these. It's pretty challenging, in my opinion. Let's make sure this is in a good place. It's pretty challenging because you don't really have any room, so it's important to let those sit for a minute. Show you guys how this goes. Hopefully you can see from down there. So at this point, it'll kind of seem like you're past the challenging part, but guys, getting these things back on at the right weight is probably about 2 or 3 times harder than getting them off. So sorry about it, but it's the truth. Okay, so no dos tres. All right, now what you guys gotta do is take that hammer that I told you guys need. I'll clean off the back of this real quick. That hammer, it's gonna seem a little medieval, Renaissance era here, but you're basically just gonna beat this thing off of the outer tire rod. Evenly, of course. Don't just sit there and beat on it in any direction and wonder why it's not working out for you. You know, go a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit underneath here. A little bit there. I'll do some wiggling. Do some PB Blaster in there. Alright guys, so we're back, obviously. After a lot of beating and prying and you know, some PB Blaster, this finally kind of broke loose. What you want to do after you break loose your old wheel bearing, you want to clear off the surface, clear off these areas, these threads, all these things that are going to make anything thread improperly. So you want to clean out these holes. These don't have any threads in them, but they'll help keep that space clear from debris. So whenever you put your bolt back in, it doesn't encounter any kind of debris, which is important. Obviously, don't leave your shop towel in there. So. You know, I'll clean out this outer tire rod. So let's check that out. Everything seems to be pretty good on that from what I can see. Surface is nice and clean. Gasket in here. This gasket area slides into clean. Our culprit, bad part, seems, I think it's bad. I don't know. Seems kind of nasty. Probably just from the road. I don't know. It was making the bad wheel bearing noise, so we just went ahead and took care of that. And still making the noise after I replaced both of these, then we've got a whole other issue on our hands. So here's our new one. Let your trash blow away. Gonna get this wire lined up to my left and then have it kind of draping over the top here. Like I said, I made the rookie mistake of getting wheel bearings with ABS whenever my truck doesn't have ABS in front. So it's better to have it than not, than need it and not have it. So as far as parts and stuff go, so we're going to thread these back in just the way we took them out, and we'll tighten them down and we'll be right back. Let's put our bracket back on. It's very important to have your rotor on whenever you guys do this. Otherwise you'll have to repeat the step, basically. It's never fun. Okay. Whew. Right, we're almost home here. In a sense, I'm gonna clean up the lens a little bit. God. There we go. Nice and tight. All right. Let's turn this back over this way. Okay, so that's on. Now we do the second one that should already be kind of down a little bit. And then wrench. We're gonna do this one from the bottom because ultimately we're gonna end up laying on the ground on the bottom anyways. Just because I have to be able to see. That measurement, and when you do it, it flips to the opposite side. So. Hair all over my clothes and shit. Alright. So here's your hold spot. Here's your retaining pin. And that's pretty snug, to be honest. So we're gonna do this one first. This off. That's why you use the medium. I think this is the 3/8 drive. So the in-betweener. Put your open-ended wrench there, and then your torque wrench right here. Let me bring it to 264 inch-pounds. And that's that. It's nice and tight on there. These might not be turning. Like the other side, for some reason, you do have to hold that nut, which could be a problem with my, could be another underlying issue that we might have on this vehicle. There's your 264. So when I do this, because it's not super easy to read, so the right side in black is the inch-pounds. So I'll go, so there's a 200, there's a mark in the middle, and there's a 300. I'll go a little bit past that middle mark in between 200 and 300, so about to 260. And that's the inch, that's how much torque should be on those retaining pins. They don't need a lot. So you got your pads in there, your pins in, your bolts on. So you're ready to, you can just check your work area in this underneath area. This is why you leave all of your parts you take off down here on the bottom. You leave everything down here, and whenever you start finishing up, it's easy to look for things to make sure you have all your stuff put back on. So if you have anything here, it'll be obvious, oh, I forgot to put that back on, blah blah blah. So, but if there's nothing here, then obviously you got everything, and everything got put back on. So now we just grab our wheel, and I don't need to shoot a video on how to put a tire back on unless you guys need that, and that's a whole separate issue. So for the wheel, I just put the wheel on the lug studs and tighten the nuts down to 100 foot-pounds. But that's it. That's the video. That's a new wheel bearing or wheel hub assembly underneath there, and the old one's going in the trash. We'll see. It may have been that stupid plate that's been making the noise the whole time. Who knows? But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll obviously leave all the essential tools and equipment below that I use, and stuff that's extra that kind of helps me out during the process. But yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe. This is predominantly a fishing channel, but I'm gonna make a whole playlist of car stuff off to the side, because I like to do this on my weekends as well. But yeah, I'll talk to you, I'll see you guys later. We'll shoot another video. My next video will probably be something fishing. It'll probably be like a spur of the moment thing. Hopefully my MTB box comes in soon, so I can kind of start on that for the month of September, MTB Smash. I'm probably gonna do another video on catching, bass on all those baits. So stay tuned for that, and please subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you guys later.